everybody, welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me here today as we continue on with our World of Hydaelyn series, though I'm thinking that maybe I should change the name to World of Aetheris because we now know what this world's real name is, but we'll talk about that another day. Anyway, I feel that now is a good time to really go ahead and look into another section of the land of Eorzea that we have all been looking forward to, I'm sure. And that's Mor Dhona. We've already covered the three main city-states of Limsa Lominsa, Gridania, and Udal, as well as their surrounding territories. But we haven't had a chance to really talk about Mor Dhona yet, and this is something I've really been looking forward to. It's probably going to be a bit shorter than compared to all the other videos that I've done, simply because it is just one land, and it doesn't really have too much history behind it. But let's go ahead and dive right on into the land of Mor Dhona. Alongside the shores of Silver Tear Lake, Mor Dhona lies very close to the center of Aldenard. As a key land route blessed with breathtaking scenery, the area once featured a lively collection of inns. During the Battle of Silver Tear Skies, however, an extreme ethereal surge swept through the landscape, transforming much of it into pure crystal. Though the cause remains a topic of discussion among scholars, the phenomenon was undisputedly destructive, and now the place is a wasteland shrouded in mythic mists. So yes, we know this land very well to be the home of the Scions of the Rising Stones, as well as an outpost for frequent adventurers, and surrounded by a barren wasteland, topped with a ton of crystal just jetting out of all these rock formations. But believe it or not, it used to be a very lush and green area filled with forests and green fields surrounding the lake, which I imagine would have been very beautiful. At least until the Battle of Silver Tear Skies, where Midgardsormr did battle with the Garleans and their main flagship, the Agrias. So the two ended up going at a massive war with each other, dragons versus machines, and in the end it kind of ended in a draw, because the Agrias was destroyed, but at the same time it looked like Midgardsormr had also fallen, though we later find out that that's not true at all. He kind of fell into a hibernation more than anything else. As for the lake itself, it really is less than half the size that it used to be. Apparently a lot of the water got drained out of it during the Battle of Silver Tear Skies, so not as big as it used to be. And yeah, so there's really not much left to this place after that little war. Whether or not this land will ever flourish again is difficult to say. To this day, you can see slight traces of the land that it used to be. You can see a lot of dead trees and just the very skeletal remains of a once lush area. As for the main history of this place, there really isn't too much to say about it. It used to be mostly an outpost where people were able to come and go as they saw fit. As of right now, it is mostly a giant stronghold in the middle of nowhere that is frequented by adventurers. So it kind of has a little bit of everything. As for Mor Dhona itself, it is separated into three sections. We have the Fogfins, North Silver Tear, and the Eight Scintilles. So let's go ahead and start with Fogfins, where many an unaspiring traveler has vanished into the thick brume that often hangs heavy over these wetlands, never to be heard from again. So, not really too much here with Fogfins. It's mostly connected with Revenant's Toll. So this is the Adventurous Guild built into this new settlement to replace Camp Revenant's Toll, which has long since served as a base of operations for the guild in Mor Dhona. Under its auspices, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and refugees from Doma continue to aid in the construction. The current activity notwithstanding, the origin of Revenant's Toll's name is tragic, for few villagers had the chance to escape before their homes were crushed by the airships falling from the skies. The devastation claimed so many lives that the dead had none to mourn their passing but the dead. So yeah, there used to be nice little outposts and camps set up here and there, but because of the battle in Silver Tear Skies, most of the people of Mor Dhona were actually wiped out. It's been about 15 years since then, but more people from the Adventurous Guild have decided to venture back out here to try and rebuild it, and have succeeded in building a fairly modern structure. I feel pretty safe within these walls if you ask me. As for any notable landmarks that we have inside Revenant's Toll, we have the Seventh Heaven. So this favorite haunt of many adventurers, this tavern takes its name from the highest and final heaven. On the one hand, this serves as a metaphor for the experience the establishment's clientele can expect when drinking within its halls. At the same time, it's also meant a subtle prayer for the spirits of those who died in the Battle of Silver Tear Skies, that they might find peace in the hereafter, which is a very beautiful way to actually look at it. We also have Rowena's House of Splendor. Seeing as the enterprise and merchant Rowena provides a great deal of aid in the expansion of Revenant's Toll, she was bequeathed the rights to a goodly section of the largest building in town, dubbing it bluntly, if not tastelessly, the House of Splendors. So she's very confident in her abilities, I'll give her that, and she certainly knows how to run a business, I guess the best way is to put it, but I personally would not trust her as far as I could throw a Gigas. Otherwise, the only other landmark I can really think of right now is the Diamond Forge. It is here in this smithy that the artisans in Rowena's employ craft the arms and armor sold in her House of Splendors. For a time, the forge did good business and recreating vintage equipment, but such wares seem to have fallen out of fashion as of late, as adventurers have begun taking their customs to more exotic locations. Which I kind of love that whole section there, because you can still get more, I guess, vintage looking armor, like with the level 50 gear, but most people don't really go here anymore. But moving on, let's go ahead and look at some of the other landmarks that we have here in Fogfins. We have 4 others, the first of which is Camp Revenant's Toll. So this was established by the Adventurous Guild to aid refugees. Camp Revenant's Toll was obliterated during the calamity. Drastic changes in the area's elemental balance left the ether in a chaotic state, forcing corrupted crystals up through the ground and essentially tearing the camp apart. So there's really nothing left here except like the bare bones of what used to be a small camp. So it was pretty much abandoned once the corrupted crystals started bursting out of the ground. Can't really blame them for that, because being exposed to corrupted crystals for over long can have negative effects on the body. So after Camp Revenant's Toll was abandoned, they kind of retreated a bit and they built up another camp where it eventually became Revenant's Toll. But anyway, moving on, we have the Tangle Neck. So this wastewater of Castrum Century has polluted these once healthy wetlands, attracting morbals to the area with the cloying stench of rotting flora. Travelers have taken to calling it the Tangle because of the twisted labyrinth that now fills the area, created by the meowed roots and vines. And it really is sad that the Garleans they didn't realize, or rather they just didn't care just how much pollution they brought with them. I understand that ceruleum is a very powerful, very useful resource to have, but yeah, it is so... It just pollutes everything around it, so probably best not to rely upon it so much, though. Now that we have, I guess, a established peace with Golemo, I really am curious to know if there is a way that we can actually clean all of this up and maybe try to start to restore Mor Dhona to the way that it used to be. Highly doubt it, though. Otherwise, we do have Wrathfrost. Upon this ridge stands Crystalline Flora, a constant reminder of the Battle of Silver Tear Skies. The name stems from the sound the grass makes underfoot, which is not unlike the slight crunch of treading upon morning frost. And you can also find the Mark of the Scholar positioned here, which is kind of, I guess, the soul stone of one of the 12. So this is where you come if you want to come pray to the Scholar. And the last bit, most notable landmarks that we have here in Mor Dhona is Castrum Century. The 7th Imperial Legion constructed Castrum Norfram to house the lunar transmitter used to call down the satellite Dalamud. Legatus Gaius Van Belsar and his 14th Legion, however, ended up confiscating the facility. They have since reconstructed and expanded the military stronghold to include mining and refining capabilities. So, yes, this is not exactly a place that we really have to worry about too much anymore, especially with the end of the final days. I really am curious to know what's going to happen to the future of these castrums that are scattered throughout Eorzea. Hopefully, we will be able to find a use for that, and maybe we can actually help some of these guys return to Golemo. I'm sure that they would really like to do that. though there really isn't much left of that place now that I think of it. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on to North Silvertear. So this is an area bordering the lake. North Silvertear is known for the sights it offers, such as the Keeper of the Lake that rises above the water, and the Crystal Tower that glimmers silently to the east. So there are actually 3 major landmarks that we can actually look at here, the first of which is Saint Coinart's Spine. So this learned group of scholars known as the Sons of Saint Coinart set up this camp with the intent to explore the mysteries of the ancient Allegan Empire. In addition to the unearthing of relics and ruins, they also conduct research on the newly risen Cyrus Tower, or as we know it more commonly as the Crystal Tower. So this is actually a nice little hangout for a lot of scholars to just kind of be able to explore and study, because there are a lot of ruins that were left behind by Allag, a lot of artifacts, and it's a really wonderful place to study for anyone who is interested in the Allegan Empire. I'm sure that Grahatia can attest to that. Otherwise, we do have the Singing Shards. So aspected most heavily to lightning, the Singing Shards resonates with one another and ring in a sweet and unique way that is often mistaken for a maiden in song. So apparently there are lightning aspected crystals embedded within these giant shards of crystal, and they kind of resonate with each other, and that's what unleashes this beautiful sound. So nothing too dangerous to really note here, it's really just damn pretty to look at. And finally, perhaps the biggest landmark that we have in all of Mor Dhona, we have the Keeper of the Lake. So maintaining a silent vigil over Silvertear Lake, the Keeper is wrought from the wreckage of the Imperial flagship, the Agrias. It rises above the lake, wrapped in the death coils of Midgardsormr, the great worm long believed to have been the protector of the area, which we later find out that that's not entirely untrue. Midgardsormr came here from a distant star and apparently made some kind of deal with Hydaelyn to be able to protect this land, and he would be able to raise his children in peace, which he has been able to do so up till now. Until one point, everyone believed that the Great Worm was dead because it has been 15 years since he last awoken, but dragons are notoriously difficult to kill, at least the Great Worms are. So he is definitely still alive. He's just sort of hibernating for right now, so probably not the best place that you want to visit. You can look at him and admire him from afar, but I would not advise getting any closer. And finally, the last area that we have is the 8 Cintials. So ever standing vigil over Cyrus Tower, this row of daunting swordsmen greet the solemn silence all who dared set foot in the Forbidden Spire. So it's not really an area that we can actually explore very often. We really don't have too much reason to want to come here anymore, especially after you complete the Crystal Tower questline, but it's still damn pretty to look at as well, if you ask me. As for any major landmarks in this area, there's only really one. We have the Crystal Tower. So the Allegans built the Crystal Tower, also known as the Circus Tower, in the dusk of their empire. While little is known about the gargantuan structure, the Sons of Saint Coinart have surmised that it has been constructed to assimilate the endless energy of the sun. Which is also true. It was actually created for 2 reasons. One of which was to collect the boundless energy of the sun like a giant solar panel so they could continue to power up their cities. Whereas the second reason was actually after it was long since built and they launched Dalamud into the sky. The Crystal Tower was really the only link that they had between Earth and Dalamud way up in the heavens high above them. Of course, that connection did backfire tremendously against the Allags because they could not control the massive fusion of power that ended up going directly into the land, which caused the massive earthquake, which brought in the 4th Umbral Calamity. In fact, this earthquake was so big that the entire Crystal Tower sank and was just completely buried underneath all that rock. And this is a giant tower that pretty much is able to scrape the heavens themselves. So that should tell you just how big, just how massive that earthquake had to have been. There's really not too much more that we can really say about Mor Dhona. Like I said, its history is pretty mild compared to some of the city-states. It is a land that is frequented by adventurers. They bring all manner of trade from all over the world here. And it's really a place that was once home for us, because the Scions of the Seventh Dawn did make their main base here for a long time after leaving the Wakened Sands. Now, however, the Rising Stone stands pretty much empty, save for Taru as she continues to plan for world domination. At least that's my humble opinion. But yeah, so that's everything that we really know so far about the basic history of Mor Dhona and the major landmarks that we can find here. So, like I said, it is pretty short compared to some of my other videos. There really wasn't too much to say about Mor Dhona. However, now that we have the major areas from A Realm Reborn all kind of put together for us in these nice little videos, we are finally ready to move on to the lands of Heavensward. So in our next video, as we continue to map out the world of Hydaelyn, still contemplating if changing the name is the best way to go about this, but we will be studying more upon the lands of Ishgard. So we will be starting off first with the city itself of Ishgard, its basic history, the city itself, the kind of people that we have there. So I'm predicting that it's going to be a pretty long one, so yeah, please bear with me with that. Otherwise, everyone, this is going to be Fantasy Girl signing out. Thank you so much for watching. If you like it, leave a like or comment down below. I always love to hear from fans of this series. Otherwise, yeah, thanks once again, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye!